And so, with that, I would like to introduce the candidate of the hour, my dear friend and Theo, Senator Bernie Sanders.
Thank you all. Las Vegas, thank you. And let me introduce you to the next First Lady of the United States of America, Jane Sanders.
Good to be here, Las Vegas.
We're going to have to break down the wall next time to get any more people in here. It's a great turnout, and I thank you all so much for coming out a few days before Christmas. We really do appreciate it. Let me thank DJ Cassidy. Let me thank Darla Garcia. Let me thank Kiara Haley, Sandy Redding, and Kevin Lee. And let me thank Mayor Carlin Jeline Cruz of San Juan. And you know what a great mayor she is, because Donald Trump is always attacking her. That tells you about her integrity. And unlike Trump, we know that the people of Puerto Rico are American citizens. We are not going to turn our backs on them. And let me thank Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. It is hard to imagine that this young woman has been in office for less than 1 year and yet has helped transform American politics in 1 year. She has spoken truth to power. She has stood up for the voiceless. She has stood up and helped lead the fight for a Green New Deal. She has stood up for immigrant rights. And I just want to thank her for all of the great work she does in Washington and for her help on this campaign. Now, my only criticism of Alexandria is she just gave my speech. But I'll try to add on. And what Alexandria was saying about people in Washington spending half their lives trying to raise money and the power of the billionaire class over our political process is absolutely correct. What I believe in is a vibrant democracy where ordinary people determine what happens, not wealthy campaign contributors. And that means we are going to overturn this disastrous Citizens United Supreme Court decision. We're going to move toward public funding of elections. We're going to end voter suppression. And under our administration, anyone 18 years of age who's an American citizen will be allowed to vote. End of discussion. And our administration is going to deal not only with political corruption, but with economic inequality. We are prepared to tell you a truth that you're not going to see on TV or hear much about in Congress. And that is that it is unacceptable that we have 3 people in America who own more wealth than the bottom half of American society. That we have 1% that own more wealth than the bottom 92%. That at a time when people are working 2 or 3 jobs, 49% of all new income goes to the top 1%. That is not what America is supposed to be about. And I'm very proud to tell you, by the way, in terms of how we fund our elections, at this point in the campaign, we have received more campaign contributions from more people, averaging $18 apiece, than any candidate in the history of American politics. We don't have a super PAC. We don't spend our lives going to rich people's living rooms to raise money. Our campaign is funded by the working people of this country, and our administration will represent the working families of this country. The American people are sick and tired of an economy in which the people on top get richer and richer when we got 500,000 people sleeping out on the streets of America tonight. They're tired of an economy in which half of our people are living paycheck to paycheck. The American people want an economy that pays working people a living wage. And that is why we are going to raise the minimum wage to at least $15 an hour. I am tired of talking to people in Nevada, in Iowa, New Hampshire, who are trying to make it a $9, $10, $11 an hour. They can't do it. If you work 40 hours a week in America, you should not be living in poverty. And our administration believes that instead of paying women 70 or 80 cents on the dollar compared to men, women deserve equal pay for equal work. And our administration will believe, sooner than they think, that workers in America have the right to join unions. We believe in the trade union movement. We have legislation in that over a 4-year period will double the number of workers who belong to unions. And here is another radical idea. Our administration believes in education. Whoa! And that means that if you are a working class person here in Nevada or in Vermont or any place else, you have the right to be able to send your little kid to high quality, affordable child care. You have a right to know that when your kids are in public schools, those schools will be adequately funded. That your kids' teachers will not have to work 2 or 3 jobs to support themselves. So what we are going to do is triple funding for low-income Title I schools. And we are going to move to make certain that every teacher in America earns at least $60,000 a year. And we need great teachers in America. No job more important than being a teacher, and I hope that many of the young people here will give consideration to teaching our young kids. And I'll tell you what else we believe. And I grew up in a working class family. I spent my entire youth in a rent-controlled apartment. And I believe from the bottom of my heart that if this country is going to lead the world, that every person in this country, regardless of their income, has the right to get a higher education. And that is why we are going to make public colleges and universities tuition-free. And why we are going to make trade schools tuition-free as well. When we have a government which is designed to represent working people, we think about public policy a little bit different than the current government. Trump and his friends a couple of years ago decided to give $1 trillion in tax breaks to the 1% and large corporations. Well, we have a little different approach. What we believe is that we should cancel all student debt in America. How many of you, here's a question, how many of you have or will have student debt? God. Anybody here will not have student debt? That's the, all right. I don't think that people who do the right thing by trying to get a higher education should be punished for it. So what we are going to do, instead of giving tax breaks to Wall Street, we are going to impose a modest tax on Wall Street speculation to eliminate all student debt in America. And I want to say a word about health care. And here is the bottom line. We are the only major country on earth that does not guarantee health care to all of our people. And right now in America, we pay, and I want you all to hear this, we spend twice as much per person on health care as do the people of any other country. We spend about $11,000 for every man, woman, and child. In Canada, most of the European countries, they spend less than $6,000. And yet, despite the fact that we spend so much, 87 million Americans today are uninsured or underinsured. 30,000 people every year die. And they die needlessly, unnecessarily, because they don't have insurance, and by the time they walk into a doctor's office, their situation is terminal. That is. And then on top of that, we pay the highest prices by far in the world for prescription drugs. 6 months ago, I took a group of diabetics from the Midwest over into Canada. And we bought insulin, which is obviously what diabetics desperately need. We bought insulin, the same product, same company, for 1/10 of the price charged in America. So we are going to take on the corruption and the greed of the pharmaceutical industry. We are going to take on the power of the healthcare industry, which last year made $100 billion in profit. And we are going, I want you to hear this too, because this is crazy on top of crazy. Last year in America, 500,000 people went bankrupt because of medically related illnesses. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine a system in which your family is financially ruined for what crime? Because you were diagnosed with cancer or heart disease or Alzheimer's or some other terrible illness. We are going to reject the dysfunctionality and the cruelty of that healthcare system. We will pass a Medicare for all single-payer program. Now, you are going to hear a lot of lies about Medicare for all, because we're taking on the drug companies and we're taking on the insurance industry. We are taking on Trump. We're taking on the Republican Party, and we are taking on the Democratic establishment. So I want you to know what Medicare for all really means. What it means, and it's not a radical idea, it exists in Canada. We're going to do it better here, but what it means, no more premiums. No more co-payments when you go into a doctor's office. We're going to end the insane concept of deductibles. No more out-of-pocket expenses. And under Medicare for all, nobody pays more than $200 a year for prescription drugs. We are going to expand Medicare to cover dental care, to cover hearing aids, eyeglasses, and very importantly, home health care. Now, I am often asked, fairly enough, they say, how, Bernie, are you going to pay for this thing? That's a fair question. But before I answer it, we got to ask how we are paying for it right now. And right now, we are paying for it. If you are the average family in America, you're making about $60,000 a year. You are paying, in that average family, $12,000 a year for health care, 20% of your income. Now, you're paying that through premiums, co-payments, and out-of-pocket expenses and outrageous prescription drug costs. Under our proposal, this is what we say. We say healthcare is not free, healthcare is expensive. I can't sit here and honestly tell you, hey, it's magically free. But what we do is say, you will pay 4% of your income, exempting the first $29,000. That means if you are under $29,000, it's free. But if you are at $60,000 a year, exempting the first $29,000, you pay 4% on $31,000, which is about $1,200 a year for comprehensive health care. So for those people who ask me how I am going to pay for it, that's how, partially, other ways we pay for it. But they have got to defend why they think families paying $12,000 a year is better than families paying $1,200 a year. And there's another issue out there that has got to be talked about. It has got to be talked about every single day, and everybody here has got to be involved in that discussion. And what the scientists are now telling us is that they have underestimated the severity and the speed in which climate change is ravaging our country and the world. They have underestimated, this is what they're saying right now, the speed at which the Arctic ice cap is melting, in which the ocean is warming, which means rising sea levels, which means that by the end of the century, if we do not act boldly, this planet may be 7 degrees Fahrenheit warmer than it is today, which means that major cities, talking about Miami, New Orleans, Charleston, South Carolina, New York City, will be underwater partially or completely by the end of the century. We're talking about increased drought, which you guys are more than familiar with. But what that means, in addition to hot days, which is difficult enough, what it also means is that the growing season for farmers will be reduced, meaning less crop production, higher food prices, and actually the quality of food deteriorating. What it means is more extreme weather disturbances. You will recall that a month ago, Venice, Italy was underwater because of torrential rains. Same thing happened to Houston, Texas. If we don't get our act together, there will be more extreme weather disturbances. What we're talking about is the acidification of the oceans, which mean that hundreds of millions of people who get their protein from fish will no longer be able to do that because the fish will be dying off in large numbers. What we're talking about is the spread of disease of bacteria that thrive in warm weather, and those diseases spreading to areas that previously did not have those diseases like malaria. What we are talking about, according to the United Nations, is if we do not get our act together, hundreds of millions of people becoming climate refugees. People who cannot stay in their community because there is no water to drink, there is no land to grow their crops. And think about what it means when hundreds of millions of people start migrating into other people's countries, massive amounts of international tension and war. Anybody who tells you that climate change is a hoax is not only lying, but they are doing a disservice of enormous magnitude to their own children and their own grandchildren. And it is an absolute outrage, something that we will deal with. When we understand that the fossil fuel industry, the oil companies, the coal companies, the gas companies, they know what their product is doing, and they have known that for decades. But they have lied about the impact that carbon emissions are having on the planet. Our administration will hold these people accountable for what they are doing. And I'm proud to tell you, very proud to tell you, that what we have done in this campaign is nothing more than listen to the scientists. And what they have said is that we need aggressive and bold action if we are going to combat climate change effectively. And I'm proud to tell you that we have introduced the most comprehensive climate change proposal ever introduced by a candidate for federal office. Our proposal is based on the tenets of the Green New Deal. And that means that as quickly as we humanly can, we will transform our energy system away from fossil fuel into energy efficiency and sustainable energies like wind and solar. And by the way, the state of Nevada, where you get, well, I was here in the summer, it was 113 degrees. You get a bit of sunshine here. This state should be and must be one of the leaders in the country in terms of solar energy. And I want to touch on another issue, which is an embarrassment to me and I think to many of you. And that is, we have more people in jail than any other country on earth because we have a criminal justice system which is broken and which is racist. So what we believe is that it is imperative that we invest in our young people, in jobs and education, rather than more jails and incarceration. It means that we will end private prisons and detention centers. And it means that we will end the incredibly destructive war on drugs. We will make marijuana legal in every state in this country. We will expunge the records of those arrested for possession of marijuana. And I'll tell you what else we're going to do. This is an idea that I didn't come up with. It came from friends in the African-American community and the Latino community. And this is what they said to me. They said, Bernie, it's great that we're going to make marijuana legal in all of the states, but we don't want to see a handful of large corporations controlling the legal marijuana industry. And so what we have proposed is to help small businesses in the African American and Latino and Native American community gain some profit from the legalization of marijuana. My detestation of Donald Trump comes from many, many reasons. But the deepest reason, I think, is that unlike any president in the modern history of this country, he has intentionally divided the American people up based on the color of our skin or where we were born or our sexual orientation or our religion. Now, whether you are a conservative, a progressive, a moderate, whatever you may be, as President of the United States, you have got to understand that your sacred obligation is not to divide us up, but to bring us together. And one way that Trump has created that division is to demonize the undocumented people in this country. Together, we will end that demonization. My father came to this country from Poland at the age of 17, fleeing extreme poverty and anti-Semitism. He came here, couldn't speak a word of English, but became the proudest American you ever saw. We are proud of the history of this country, where people from all over the world, we have probably in this room right now people from dozens and dozens of different countries, coming to America. This is what makes us strong. Immigrants have helped build this country, and they're doing it today. So not only do we end the demonization of immigrants on day one through executive order, we will undo all of the racist executive orders of Donald Trump. And that means that on day one, we will reestablish legal status for the 1.8 million young people and their parents eligible for DACA program. It means that we will create a humane border policy which does not snatch babies from the arms of their mothers, does not put children in cages. That is not what America does. And we will pass bipartisan legislation that provides comprehensive immigration reform for all the undocumented and a path towards citizenship. All of us get sick to our stomachs, and we get outraged by the level of gun violence that we see in America. And I don't have to tell if there's any city in America that has experienced that horror. We are in that city tonight. So I don't have to explain that to any of you. And my promise to you tonight is that it will be the American people who determine our gun policy, not the NRA. And that means we will have expanded universal background checks. We will end the gun show loophole and the straw man provision. And we will do what the American people now want us to do, and that is to end the sale and distribution of assault weapons in this country. Now, as a United States Senator, I hear a lot of speeches from my colleagues who are on the floor of the Senate. And very often, I hear from conservative colleagues who get up there and they say, we're conservatives and we believe in small government. We believe in getting the government off the backs of the American people. Well, I say to those conservative hypocrites, if you believe in getting the government off the backs of the American people, understand that it is women, not politicians, who should control their own bodies. So my promise to you is that I will never nominate a candidate for the United States Supreme Court who is not 100% pro Roe v. Wade. Now, Alexandria, a few minutes ago, made the point, and I want to make it again. At the end of the day, we are in a pivotal moment in American and world history. The future of the planet rests in a very significant way on this election. Democracy rests, future of democracy rests on this election. Now, what Trump and his friends want to see is millions of people not voting. That's what they want. They want to tell you and they will in many ways. Your vote is irrelevant. Why do you want to get involved in the political process? They will. That's what they will do. You may have read just in the last week that in the states of Wisconsin and Georgia, hundreds of thousands of people, working people, people of color, were taken off the voting rolls. Their names were purged. So Republicans believe that they can win elections by making it harder for poor people, people of color, young people to participate. That's what they want to do. Now, the truth is that we can win this election if we have the largest voter turnout in the history of this country. And we can win the caucuses here in Nevada if we have the largest voter turnout. We are strong in Iowa. We are strong in New Hampshire. We can win here in Nevada. I believe we're going to win in California, do very well in South Carolina. We can win this Democratic nomination, but we can't do it without increased involvement in the political process. And what Alexandria said a few minutes ago is absolutely correct. There are a whole lot of folks out there who have given up. You know them. Some of you are in this room, given up on the political process. My vote doesn't mean anything. Politics is bullshit. They're all liars. Why do I want to vote? Right? You heard that. All right. But meanwhile, Trump and his friends will spend hundreds and hundreds of millions, if not more than $1 billion, on this campaign in order to get re-elected. What we need to do is participate in this campaign in a way that we have never done it before. We believe in bringing non-traditional voters into the political process. Young people, working people. So what I am urging you today, not just for me, but for all of us and for our kids, is when you hear somebody who said, you went to a Bernie Sanders rally, why'd you waste your time getting involved in that stuff? Explain to them that you're sick and tired of hearing them complain about low wages, their student debt, climate change, racism, sexism. Tell them to stop complaining and get involved in the political process. So I'm here, we need your help here in Nevada. I'm quite confident that with your help, we can win and win big. But I will tell you this, on caucus night, turn on the TV early, and if the moderator tells you there's a large voter turnout, we win. If they tell you there's a low voter turnout, we lose. It's as simple as all that. So our job and what the political revolution is about is revitalizing American democracy, bringing millions of people into the political process to fight for justice, to fight for economic justice, social justice, racial justice, environmental justice. So we're in this together. I got my role to play. All of you have your role to play. So tonight I'm urging you, reach out to your friends, your coworkers, your family. Tell them how enormously important this primary process is, this caucus is, this election is. And if we stand together in this election cycle, if we do not allow Trump to divide us up by the color of our skin or where we were born or our sexual orientation or our religion, if we have the guts to stand up to powerful special interests and their greed and their corruption, if we are prepared to reach out to our friends, brothers and sisters, when we stand together, united, fighting for an agenda that works for all of us, not just the 1%, there is nothing that we cannot accomplish. Thank you all very much.